You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
News, views, security stories, technology, and all sorts of other related chit-chat that catches our attention. Welcome to the Essential Apple Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Essential Apple Podcast. And this week, in fact, today is the beginning of Diwali, the Festival of Lights. So if any of my listeners, celebrate that, happy Diwali. This week, Tim Cook gave an interview to People magazine and talked about diversity, being gay, and a lot more. The iPod turned 18. Where did the years go? The Amiga 1200 turned 27. Oh my God. And Google proved that quantum computing is real. Well, there's not much Apple news, I have to say, but all of the slackers have abandoned me pretty much. But you haven't just got me. I am joined by Steve at Nibs UK Leach from the Mac&Forth podcast, and we're going to pick over the bones of what news there is. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right, thank you. And you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, quite rested. I was just saying it's quite nice to do a podcast Sunday and not have to rush in from work and jump on.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, as I said before the show, we used to record, I think, originally on a Saturday, but we found there was always something, something making that a bit difficult. Sunday afternoon has turned out to be our favourite. As I say, doesn't necessarily work for Carl because I think he's usually sleeping off his Saturday night. But there we go. So, on the Apple front, there's sort of no news. No sign of an Apple event. No sign of an Apple event whatsoever. Way too late for invitations to be going out now, obviously. Or the smart money seemed to say that if there was going to be one, it would have been the 29th. But no sign of anything. So looks like we're not getting an Apple event.
Yeah, it certainly seems like they've definitely left it too late. In the past, it's typically been a week or at least 3 to 4 days when the invitations have gone out. So it looks like we're not going to be getting one. But as with most Apple things, it was only a rumor anyway, and a bit of an assumption in the Apple tech sphere. But
it's well, I think there's been a lot of speculation based on the fact that if they have one in late October. But checking the records, they didn't have one in 2017 and they didn't have one in 2015. So, is there a pattern there? Who knows? You can speculate to your heart's content, can't you? What else can you say about it? I mean, a lot of people have been saying, well, they've got to have an event because of the Mac Pro. But as I said to you before the show, I'm not really convinced by that, to be honest, because they had a huge reveal of the Mac Pro, didn't they, earlier in the year? And it's a fairly small audience that is for. I'm not sure that really warrants a huge press event just to say, yeah, you know that thing we told you about a few months ago? Well, now it's on sale. That doesn't strike me as really a press event thing.
Yeah. Well, I think the speculation was that the rumoured event was going to be kind of pro-focused, specifically introducing the 16-inch MacBook Pro laptop range, which, if rumours, again, are to be believed, is aimed squarely at the pro market with prices of sort of $3,000 upwards. Maybe some more iPad Pros, maybe some more Pro audio hardware. And I think then the Mac Pro slotted nicely into that kind of Pro presentation. And they could say, finally, it's available for sale.
Exactly. I'm totally with you there. But, there's no sign of any new... no sign of any new iPad Pros. There's rumours about AirPod 3/AirPod Pro. I'm not sure.
AirPods Pro.
AirPods Pro. Can't say that really warrants an event either.
No, definitely not on its own, but as part of an overall event, it would have fitted in.
it would have done.
Yeah.
I can only postulate that either the 16-inch, rumoured laptop isn't ready, or they're saving that for some kind of bigger event where they can show the whole lot off. Maybe with the improved, I don't know, Final Cut Pro or Logic or real pro of it, stuff. Disappointed, I suppose. We're all disappointed there's not something. I guess there's a chance they could hold one in November, but traditionally they've always pretty much stuck to October. So
yes, yeah. I think November's a little bit too close to Christmas, but again, if it's aimed at pros, they're not looking, at the consumer sort of sales.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not the 16-inch hardware that's not ready, but maybe they're not confident in Catalina yet on the 16-inch in order to release it, because there's been a new icon discovered in some of the Catalina betas, I believe.
Yes, that's where most of this stuff is coming from. Rumoured to be basically the 15-inch with smaller bezels. And allegedly going back to a scissor switch keyboard.
That's been the rumour ever since the 16-inch was postulated about. First of all, because the butterfly keyboard, I think, has been disappointing for a lot of Apple customers, and I think particularly the pro market would welcome the return to the scissor mechanism. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, I don't have a butterfly keyboard machine, and I'm still not sure how prevalent the problems with it are. Obviously there are problems with it. It's certainly prevalent enough that plenty of people have been squealing about it, and certainly enough that Apple have kind of had to do a sort of extended warranty up front, as it were, which was, if you have a butterfly keyboard and something goes wrong with it, we will fix it.
They've essentially extended the warranty on the keyboard part alone for up to 4 years from purchase.
Yeah. So, there are obviously problems with it. How bad they really are, you'd probably have a better idea, really, Steve, because obviously you work in a repair centre.
So I work at an Apple authorised service provider in Watford, and we are fairly busy. We actually have referrals from the Apple store in Watford, sending people to us. Mainly it's older machines that Apple maybe don't want to deal with in their own stores, and that's why they have service providers like us, so that they can send some of that market along to us. But we do get a fair amount of warranty work in as well, and we have seen a few of the butterfly keyboards with sticking keys and whatever. Of those, maybe 50% we've been able to sort out immediately with compressed air, just by blowing the debris out from underneath the keys and sending the happy customers along their way. But sometimes we do have to go ahead and replace the whole top case, because the keyboard's built into the top case. Yeah,
I mean, they've been doing that to some extent, haven't they? Pretty much ever since the white plastic ones, where they the Core 2 Duos. I think those were the first ones, weren't they? Where the keyboard was effectively attached to the shell, because in the older iBooks before that, the keyboard was removable. Just undid those little clips and lifted it out.
That's right, little tabs at the top.
Yeah, in fact, that was how you got to the RAM, wasn't it? It was under the keyboard on those.
That's right. Yeah. So they were all pre kind of unibody designs, but ever since unibody.
Ever since the unibody, which started, of course, with the plastic ones and moved on to the aluminium ones. So ever since then, the keyboard is actually, and the trackpad, they're all built in, which makes for a lovely device, but it does mean if it goes wrong, you're in big trouble on the whole.
Or expensive trouble if it's out of warranty.
There we go. The iPod has turned 18. Not much to say about that, really, is there? I mean, other than the iPod is 18. It's wow. Really, like all these things, blimey, I thought that was last week.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
it's really how time flies sort of story, isn't it?
It is. All those stories are always like that. And as I said at the start, apparently the Amiga A1200 is 27, which is even more frightening. I never had an Amiga, but I must admit I really did at the time quite like the look of those. Very nice machines.
I was never in the Amiga camp myself. I was a ZX Spectrum
Right.
guy. The other main rival seemed to be Commodore 64 at the time.
Yes.
I think Amiga was at the higher budget end.
It definitely was, yes.
Whereas Spectrum and Commodore 64 were more kind of home user.
Very much so. I mean, the Amiga, certainly sort of the 1200 and the 2000 were very much pitched as real business computers.
Yeah. Maybe up there with the BBC machines.
Yeah, certainly. They were certainly higher end, but I do know a lot of people who had them. Still remember them with great fondness. And of course, when it was quite strange because they were, really powerful machines for the time. There we go. I always thought it was sad that Apple didn't buy them when they got into trouble, to be honest. I thought that, particularly at the time when Commodore went under and the Amiga was left sort of floundering.
Who knows where it would have been now if they had it done.
I always thought it was a strange thing because Apple at the time were not exactly, they're not the juggernaut they are now. And I always thought at that time, if they purchased at least the Amiga part of Commodore's business, probably for a song, they could have, onboarded a large number of new users at that time. Because, of course, the Amiga ran on the Motorola processors, the same as the Mac. So there we are.
Yeah, would have been a good fit.
I always thought it would have been a good fit, and I never understood why they didn't. But there you go. I wasn't in charge of Apple, so what I think wasn't really very important.
Maybe somebody should write a drama about that and pitch it to Apple TV Plus.
Yes. What happened when Apple bought Amiga? Yeah. There we are. Apple have been advising iPhone 5 users. Are there a lot of iPhone 5 users out there? I'm not sure. I guess there might be quite a lot of. Well, I suppose there might be, there might be children and so on, younger users with hand-me-downs.
Yeah, I guess, and maybe some in the emerging countries who haven't quite caught up with the big screen craze, and are after a cheaper communication device.
Yep. I guess there are always people out there. Also, there are, we have to remember not everybody is in the tech sphere like us and loves new shiny things. They just want a phone that works. And there we go. Anyway, Apple have advised iPhone 5 owners that they need to update to iOS 10.3.4, which I believe is the last version of the iOS they can run, by November the 3rd. If you've got an iPhone 5, I would have thought you'd have been on that already, but
I would have thought so. But yeah, again, with not everybody being tech focused, they might well just stick with whatever iOS they got the phone with. I don't think the updates were quite as in your face as they are now back then.
Yeah, I think you might have had to dig a little bit more, mightn't you, back then?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly since sort of since iOS 11, you definitely, almost can't avoid them. They're like, a new update is available. Press here now. Do it now. So anyway, apparently the reason for this is that the installer, I believe, will stop being signed, and the only way to update to 10.3.4 after November the 3rd will be to connect to your computer and do a full restore via iTunes.
Right.
There we go. So if you're listening to this and you have an iPhone 5 and you are not on 10.3.4, do it now. Quickly. Be quick.
Yeah, apparently it fixes some GPS bug as well, and if you don't do it, you may not be able to continue using App Store and iCloud. So.
Oh yes, that was the main one, wasn't it? Yes, that is the main one. The iCloud and App Store will no longer support earlier versions. So yeah,
mind you, if you're still running apps that support iOS 10, good luck with those as well.
Yeah, good luck finding any apps that you can actually download. That is true. Yes. I don't know though. Having said that, mocking aside, I've got an old iPad 2, not a Air 2, an actual iPod
Mm.
2, and that's running iOS whatever 9 point something.
Wow.
And my boy was still downloading games on that. I guess a lot of the simple sort of games don't really require that much oomph,
Yeah.
or clever features, So there we are. Right. Well, apparently some trapped hikers were rescued after an Apple Watch automatically called 911 for them. The link I've got here is from Fox News. Watch out, it's an auto-playing video. And it's Fox News. I'm not going to go any more into that than that. But, yeah, apparently they were hiking and fell down a cliff and ended up stuck on a ledge. And somebody's Apple Watch called 911 and they were rescued. So there we go. That's a good news story. I don't think there's much more to say about that, is there? Other than,
No, not really.
I assume it was fall detection.
Yeah, Apple really seem to highlight these occasions where Apple Watch have detected a fall and called the emergency services. And why wouldn't they? It's a great feature of the Apple Watch. I don't think any other smartwatch has got this sort of feature to it. Yeah, good on them for saving some more lives potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason behind that is when they originally launched that feature, a lot of people were, well, I'm not, 85 years old with a dodgy hip, so why would I need to worry about fall detection? But of course, a lot of these stories that have come out have been, things like mountain cyclist hits rock and bashes head on tree, saved by Apple Watch, that sort of thing. Because, you could, anyone can have a fall.
Certainly, yeah. I'm surprised we haven't been deluged with stories about drunk teenagers falling over.
Yeah, that's also true, yeah. There we go. So, there are. And I know, I think by default, it only turns on if the watch thinks you're over 65 or 60 or something.
Yeah, otherwise it's a manual procedure to turn it on, yeah.
And I think, I kind of understand why they did that, but actually I think it should be on by default. And if it's manual and you've got that, have a watch that supports it, I think you should turn it on. Turn it on, people. Then when you fall off that stool trying to get your bottle of brandy off the top shelf, someone can come and help you. There we are. Tim Cook gave an interview to the People magazine in Spain, I believe, originally, where he, talked about diversity, Apple coming out as gay, being gay. Again, it's an interesting, an interesting piece if you like Tim Cook or what he has to say. It's Tim Cook doing what he says, what he likes to do, really, which is say what he thinks and stand up for what he believes. So if you don't like Tim Cook or what he has to say, it's probably not worth reading it. But I don't know what else to say about it, really.
Yeah, it's not really. I'm not really sure why they've published the story, to be honest. But I guess people are interested in the people behind the big tech companies that they're interested in. Apple, I think, have always had this kind of open nature. And ethos. They've been very accepting about diversity and whatever throughout their whole sort of period of business. So he's. I personally like Tim Cook. I think he's a great figurehead for the company. I think he's done some great things for Apple. You don't hear so much now about this wouldn't have happened if Steve was still around.
No,
which I think is a good sign that Tim's doing a good job.
Yeah, I think he does do a good job. It's true, he doesn't have quite the charisma of Steve, but that would be very difficult. I mean, Steve was kind of one of a kind, and he's certainly not the showman that Steve was. That's true, but
I think he's made up for it at keynotes and whatever by bringing out other people, rather than taking so much of the lead himself, and I think that's good as well because we get to see the other people behind the curtains in Apple, and a little bit about what they do and how they work as well. It's I think it makes it more interesting.
Yes, and I think it's I think it's commendable, really, how open he is himself. I mean, he's the first major CEO to come out as openly gay. He's never really. I mean, I know there was a lot of speculation when he first took over, and I think maybe he partly came out to just stamp on that. I mean, why have people muttering about it if you can't just come out and say it? Yes, I am. So what? But yeah, I do like Tim Cook. I think he he stands up for what he believes in, and I think although I don't think Steve maybe made quite so much of what Apple as a company tries to stand for as Tim has done. Tim has definitely made a big thing of the green credentials and the diversity and all
education and all that sort of stuff. Where I think Steve Jobs was maybe a little bit more kind of self-focused. Tim has done a lot to broaden the exposure of the ethos of Apple and to keep that going.
Very much. So there you go. If you're interested in that, I've got a link to 9 to 5, which has a quick summary with a few quotes, and that has a link to the original People website if you're interested in reading that. And that's about it for the Apple news, I have to say. So the biggest tech story this week, realistically, has been about Google's quantum computer. I've got a link here to a TechCrunch article, which is quite long, but it's very interesting. It not only explains what they did, but also kind of why it's important. And it's a very accessible article. It very much, in layman's terms, explains kind of what quantum computing is about and why it matters. One of the biggest things about and why they've been trumpeting it so much is that this experiment actually verifies that quantum computing works at all, because until now it's all been pretty theoretical.
Yeah, I think the whole quantum physics arena is one that probably not many people understand, and to be able to write an article in layman's terms about it is pretty impressive in itself. It's quite a difficult concept to get your head around. It's all about kind of the spaces between atoms, as far as I can make out.
It's all very technical. Basically, to summarise the article, instead of having a simple binary on-off storage, which obviously is how quote unquote classical computers work, each qubit is effectively a 3D sphere, and it can spin and rotate and whatnot. So it can have more than an on-off state. This is part of how it works. But built into that, there's a certain amount of uncertainty for each qubit, which is where your head will explode if you try and understand the mechanics behind it. The experiment, basically, they built a quantum computer with a certain number of qubits. I forget exactly how many they started with. And then they got the biggest supercomputer in the world to model what the expected output would be. And the supercomputer originally, the first few simple tests, the supercomputer model would return the same result, or at least range of probabilities. I'm not going to get into it here, but it returned a valid and matching result in almost the same time. However, as they started to add more qubits, it took the supercomputer exponentially longer until they reached a point where I believe they had 54 qubits and 3 iterations, I think. And at that point, it took the supercomputer a week to do what the quantum computer had managed in seconds. And they calculated that if they went any further, it would probably take the supercomputer something like 10,000 years to match the output of the quantum computer. the biggest point here is this has proved that quantum computing is real and it works as expected, and the models also are correct. So that's actually, as they described it in the article, sort of a hello world moment, or as one of the quantum computing guys said, well, Sputnik didn't do very much, but we still refer to the Sputnik moment when we proved that you could actually do such a thing. So how long it will take before that moves, I mean, that's not something we're going to be seeing on our desktops in our lifetime, I would have thought, Steve, but it's incredibly, possibly, the next big moment in computing. So there we are. If you're interested in that, do go over and read it, because it's quite an interesting article, but it is quite long. Oh, I think I've lost him.
Oh no.
And we're back. We don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened. I was talking to Steve, and then I got deathly silence, and then my boy came running in and went, "Dad, the internet's off, like the end of the world had happened. And so we did all the usual, unplugging the routers and plugging the routers back in, and nothing for about 3 hours, and then all of a sudden it just went, "Ding! Your Proton VPN is connected." Like, we're back. So I've no idea what that was. Something fairly local, I reckon. Somebody tripped over the cable.
You'll probably never find out.
We'll never know. No, somebody tripped over the cable in a telephone exchange or something. There we are. Oh, dear. So, after that short break, where were we? Google apparently snuck an augmented reality ad / Easter egg onto the back of the Pixel 4 box, according to Mashable and some other people. Apparently, if you have a Pixel 4 and you fire up whatever their augmented reality thing is and look at the back of the box, there's an Easter egg on there for you. There you go. Apparently, the first 100% electric black cab for 120 years has been launched in London, according to The Guardian, which is nice, I suppose. I must
Interesting
admit,
thing about that is, did they have 121 years?
Well, yeah, or is it 120 years of black cabs? I would have thought black cabs have been going.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I always actually do find it slightly amusing when they have all this stuff, particularly places like Target, considering all electric delivery vans and whatnot. It's like, yeah, we had those when I was a kid. It was called a milk.
Yeah.
All our co-op milkmen drove around in those bloody electric boats. Whee, rattle, 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 rattle.
Yeah, it's funny, you don't see many of them anymore, do you?
No, I think that's because
everyone gets their milk from the supermarket.
Well, there is that, but I mean, you can still have it delivered, or it certainly can round here. But as the number of dairies has shrunk and the number of people who have their milk delivered to the doorstep has shrunk, the area that the poor milkman has to drive around has become larger, probably to the extent that he can no longer make it round in one of those electric carts.
Yeah.
Here we go. Apparently, this is a converted Nissan van called the Dynamo and has been licensed to help clean up capital's filthy air, according to The Guardian. Well, all for the good, I suppose. All those diesel-burning black cabs can't be great, can they, I suppose?
Yeah, especially after they found out that diesel wasn't quite as
good as
eco-friendly as they first touted it to be.
No. Yeah, new clean diesel is better for you than petrol. Yeah, except it's not. There we go. I mean, I guess these sort of things, we're going to get more and more of these, aren't we? I think, was it Maserati have said that they're going to build all their new supercars will be all electric. Porsche have gone for electric. I suppose if you're going to be out on the cutting edge of technology, that's where it's at the moment.
Yeah, that's where it's all currently pointing. Yeah, I just think they need to put a bell on the front of each of these cars, because there's been a few occasions where I've always been run down because I didn't hear the car coming. Yeah,
they don't make any real noise, do they? Although haven't they? They've suggested that they were going to have some sort of noise emitter for electric cars, not ones that are already on the roads, but newly built ones. Although, I don't know, that's mostly at low speeds. It's just going to be like one of those things. This vehicle is reversing. Or in this case, this electric vehicle is approaching. Yeah, shut up. That's going to be worse and worse.
Swap air pollution for noise pollution.
Yeah, they're all going around with it. If they're all going around making a horrible racket, will you be able to tell?
Yeah.
Every car screaming at you. Dear, oh dear. NordVPN confirms it was hacked on TechCrunch. I think it was at Dougie in the Slack room pointed this one out. The our favourite security man. Not good news. I'm not sure how serious a breach it really was. Although no breach of a VPN is good, obviously. No. It appears that an expired internal private key was exposed, potentially allowing anyone to spin up their own server, imitating a NordVPN server.
That's potentially troublesome.
Yes, not great.
If someone wanted to set up a VPN man-in-the-middle attack, that would allow that, presumably.
It says here, the breach is likely to cause alarm that hackers may have been in a position to access user data. One of its user data centres was accessed in March 2018. One of the data centres in Finland we are renting our servers from was accessed without authorization. The attacker gained access to the server by exploiting an insecure remote management system which was left by the data centre provider. NordVPN say they were unaware that such a system was in place.
Well, if you're running the security service, maybe you would be a little more diligent.
Yeah. I don't know what the end sort of. Several other VPN providers may have been breached around the same time. Torguard and Viking VPN may have been compromised. Torguard said a single server was compromised in 2017 that denied any VPN traffic was accessed. Well, not great. I saw a few people crowing, saying, I used Proton or private internet access, or it's like, don't crow too much. Much as it's nice to feel it wasn't your VPN of choice, can happen to anyone, especially if
and it may only be a matter of time before yours is hacked.
Yeah.
These things are constantly evolving, and VPN providers have got to be a target for hackers.
Of course.
For exactly this sort of reason.
And to provide a decent service, you need servers placed all around the globe. And I'm sure they can't actually employ all their own servers in all their own staff. Somewhere they have to be, remotely rented. Yeah. So I guess that you're always then the weakest link is somebody like that, isn't it? A server provider who's not as diligent as you would like.
Yeah.
I've heard of NordVPN. They're heavy advertisers. I'm not sure how they rated on the quality scale. They can't be complete rubbish because they're fairly well heard of.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm always dubious of these ones that say, a lifetime of VPN protection for $10 and nobody's ever heard of it. Right, yes. Microsoft have got a new way to keep your computer firmware from being hacked with their Secure Core PC concept. I just get a feeling I've heard this before somewhere. I don't know. I don't mean that in a snide way. I'm just saying I just get a feeling I've heard this kind of concept before. I'm not quite sure how it works. I mean, didn't they used to have a thing with the Trust chip or something?
Yeah, I'm not so up on the Windows sort of stuff myself, but I know there are like the big providers like Dell and whatever do have certain onboard chips that allow you to take corporate control of things like disk encryption and things like that. So it could have been baked into something like that.
They had a
previously.
sort of trusted computing platform or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's almost exactly what it is called, I believe.
What they say, Microsoft thinks it has a solution to the problem of people attacking firmware as part of a new partnership with PC manufacturers. They're launching an initiative called Secure Core PC. They are rethinking Windows' relationship with the firmware and how it handles booting the device. The processor's firmware will power up the system as always, but then limit how much the processor trusts its own firmware to define the code path it takes launching the system, and will instead call on Microsoft's bootloader. Okay. If you say
Sounds
so.
kind of similar to what Apple are doing with
I
the
was going to
T2
say, it sounds a
chips
bit like
in
the whole
machines.
T2 thing, doesn't it? Where, what I think what they're kind of doing here is saying that they're not going to use the BIOS for anything more than literally turning the power on.
Yeah.
Okay. Since Windows 8, Windows has included a secure boot feature which checks the authenticity of the bootloader. So it seems like just an extension, like everybody's moving ever further, ever more defences as things get ever more tricky.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like the T2 kind of idea, doesn't it?
Very much so, yeah.
There we go. This one is I don't know what to think about this one. Did you see this one? I think it was Mac Jim posted it in our Slack room. Anti-surveillance mask lets you pass as someone else. So this is on CNET. Obviously, wearing a mask to stop your, facial recognition is not anything new. But this is like your actual Mission Impossible rubber mask.
Right.
If you go to the thing, there's a picture here of a load of people which look dangerously like some sort of Viz cutout, a load of people with weird wrong faces.
Yeah.
There's a picture of somebody wearing it, and it's a fairly, lifelike latex, I assume, rubber mask. It's only the eyes that give it away. They make it look like something out of Doctor Who. But
yeah, I suppose as surveillance tech gets better, it's not just a 2D image of somebody's face. They could be taking sort of 3D data, and this sort of facial recognition is becoming increasingly more sophisticated and high resolution as well. High res cameras are much cheaper than they used to be. So it's not quite as easy to fool cameras as it used to be if you're that way inclined.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to make out of that. Really, it's it's somewhere between laughable and extremely creepy.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, be face recognised, then just don't show your face, as it were. But wearing a rubber mask of somebody else's face seems a bit. Well, there you go. It's on CNET. I'm not sure how. Maybe I don't know. What does it say about this guy? A 3D printed resin mask made of a 3D scan of Salvaggio's face. I assume he's possible manufacturer. Manufactured by that'smyface.com, renders his features and skin tone with surprising realism. The eyes peeping out through the eye holes give a certain creepiness to the look. Yeah, they certainly do in the photos. Creepiness is a part of the point, as the interdisciplinary artist makes his face and not everyone's face approach to exploring the impact of an increasingly networked world on personal identity. Okay, so it's to some extent, I think it's a sort of art piece. But,
yeah. But also if you take this to the next level, is it possible that he wants a lot of likenesses of his face around the world so that he can get away with committing the crime somewhere else?
Either that, or he's going to spend an awful lot of time with the police knocking on his door.
Yeah.
What were you doing in Santiago last Wednesday afternoon? Yeah. Well, I wasn't sticking up the bank. Very strange. That is a rather strange story. But my immediate thought was, play the Mission Impossible theme tune, please.
Yeah.
Oh dear. And to some extent, we're pretty much there. I'll be honest. What else? The Worth of Chirps. It seems to be sale time for photo editors, Steve. Everybody's at it. Pixelmator Pro are doing a 50% off sale. Currently $20 or £20 from the Mac App Store, as opposed to double that. Strangely.
Yes, well, that's a real bargain at the moment because Pixelmator Standard is $28.99 currently. So I think that 50% offer is only on for the next 2 days as well.
Is it? Right. Well,
if you do want it, get into it now.
Yeah. Acorn from Flying Meat, which is another photo editor, slightly at the somewhat less complicated end. Guy Searle's favourite editor, actually.
Right. Yeah,
Acorn.
I've heard of Acorn, but never used it myself.
No, I've never used it. Obviously, because of my work, I've always either had, I've had access to things like Photoshop or Pixelmator Pro, or Pixelmator and Pixelmator Pro more recently, and of course Affinity Photo. But I understand Acorn is a quite a nice little thing. As I say, Guy Searle's very keen on it. Aimed very much more at those with less complicated needs, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's a space for, as we said in the DTP show, that not everybody wants to tackle full-blown Photoshop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I cut my teeth on Paint Shop Pro on the PC. That's what really got me into the at least the idea of being able to do a little bit of image manipulation yourself. And for me now, Pixelmator and Pixelmator Pro, fill that same sort of market.
Yeah, very good. And of course, partly this is also to celebrate the fact that they've released version 1.5, I think it's called Avalon. Pixelmator Pro, that is, it's their latest release. So that's part of the reason. And also, DxO Photolab are taking aim at Adobe Lightroom and Capture One market. And I believe their Photolab 3 is currently on sale. I'm not really familiar with it, with the DxO stuff. I think they took over the Nick stuff, which was yes, it says here, yeah.
Okay.
They currently own the Nick collection.
Massive collection of plugins for Photoshop, wasn't it?
Yes, and was expensive and then cheaper, and then Google had it and were giving it away for free. And I think it would appear that DxO took it over. Photolab 3, and improved repair and colour adjustment tools, along with keyboard support, raw editing software.
I think the interesting thing about these this current crop of reductions is that they are one-time purchase software rather than subscription.
They're all
which so the subscription model seems to be sticking in a lot of people's drawers, if that's the right phrase.
I think so.
There's a lot of traditional people who would much rather pay a price for a bit of software that they can use, indefinitely.
I think part of it is, I've said it over and over again, if you're doing it for a business, that's one thing. But, if you're a hobbyist or a non-profit or whatever, then, the subscription can become quite painful quite quickly. DxO Photolab 3 Essential Edition will be available for $99.99, normally $129. And Photolab 3 Elite Edition will be $149.99, normally $199. So there you go. Obviously, I know that's pitched much more at semi-professional to professionals, I think.
Yeah. Prosumer, I think.
Yes, probably the
popular phrase. Yeah.
But there we go. That the point is, for some reason, all the photo people seem to be trying to catch our attention this week.
I mean, they're talking about releasing Photoshop for the iPad, aren't they? So
yes, they are.
Maybe it's all tying into that, and
maybe it's just awareness, The stuff about Photoshop for the iPad, though, all seems to be very much about what it's not going to have rather than what it is.
Very much.
Somebody described it the other day as, is it just a thing that brings up "Hello World" on your on your iPad Pro? There we go. Oh dear. And what else have we got? Not much, really. That was about it. Last one was just a snippet. A 4K projector which turns any wall into theatre quality screen from just inches away. This is on Ars Technica. It's an ultra short throw projector. It's about $2,700, which is not cheap, but I don't know how that would compare.
Quality, but if it's it's with these short throw projectors, they're obviously popular for kind of classrooms and and places where you've got limited space, ceiling mount a projector. They're great for that. But what you normally pay for is resolution and brightness in these sorts of things. And from the quick look at the article I had, I mean, it's quite a in-depth review that this chap's done. It looks like it's got both of those, so it looks like a pretty capable short throw projector, and could be interesting. I think there's a lot of room for this in the market, even though TV panels are coming down vastly in price. There's still room for projectors, when you're in a different sort of environment. So,
as you say, I can see it. Yes, this is obviously not a lightweight piece of kit. It says this projector features built-in Harman Kardon speakers, motion sensors to keep you from blinding yourself, and a lot of input.
If they would like to send me one for testing, I'd be more than happy to do so.
I don't know how $2,700 compares, but I'm probably not considered that pricey, is it, in that sort of market?
No, if it's of a kind of professional brightness, that's pretty reasonable as far as these sorts of things go.
And this is described as a 4K ultra short throw laser projector home theatre system. So, there we are.
Yeah, I mean, for home theatre, I probably wouldn't rely on the built-in speakers. You probably want to output that to do a DSP and your own sort of speaker setup. But yeah, it's nice to have some Harman Kardon speakers built in. For sure.
Yeah, and there's a photograph here in this article actually showing a typical ceiling-mounted projector about 8 foot from the screen, and then highlighting the VAVA sort of literally sitting at the foot of the projector screen. So there we are. Well, thanks for coming on, Steve, and sorry about the
it was a pleasure.
Sorry about the weird kind of disrupted half and half show, but this is the bit.
There's no account for the internet being there or not.
No, that is true.
That's one of the things I found out being in IT support.
Yes, I have to say that I'm with PlusNet, and that's not something that happens very often. We normally have a bloody solid, very good connection, but there we go. I suppose there's no accounting for somebody sticking a tractor bloody backhoe through the fibre or something. These things happen. Yeah. Right.
They certainly do.
Okay. Well, this is the part where we kind of wrap the show up. So normally this is where I ask you to tell everybody where you can be found around the internet.
Sure. Well, most places you'll find me at Nibs UK, NIBS UK. So that's Twitter, Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. Obviously, you'll find me on the Mac&Forth podcast. That normally comes out every Thursday night. And that's probably about it.
All right. Well, that's excellent. And as everybody probably knows, I nearly forgot. Blimey, we got, after my heartfelt plea and perhaps Carl on his solo show pleading. And yes, if you can hear that gunfire, that's not actually, bank robbers. That's my son who's playing Call of Duty and left the door open.
Oh, right. Unless it's the Diwali fireworks, which is what we're getting a lot of around here.
No, not round here, I don't think. We're probably not a big enough town to have enough people to be bothered about that. But I didn't think about that. Of course, that would be a very Diwali thing to be doing, wouldn't it? Be setting off fireworks.
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads going off around here. Yeah.
Right. Let me quick look. Where is it? Where did I put it? Oh, can't find it. Joe, can you shut that door, please? Edit that bit out. Cranks the sound up louder and louder, and then right, okay. Yes, I forgot. We had after me saying for once, how about a review? We got a review. I had a review. Yes, we had a review. Great podcast, 5 stars. I discovered this podcast after the host was a guest on another podcast I listened to. I subscribed, and several episodes later, I am hooked. lots of good content here. Well, thank you. That's Geeks Corner UK. So thank you very much. And after that, yeah, sure. Anybody else wants to do it? Go, over to the podcast, Apple Podcast app, and leave a review. You can find us, of course, over on the essentialapple.com website. Do go and have a look. I've posted a couple of articles recently. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at Serenak, and that's Serenak. Don't forget, Mac Jim has his family-friendly Flickr group. Yes, not Instagram, Flickr. And I think that's probably about it. The links to join us in the Slack, if you want, are in the show notes as usual. And I think at that point, I'll stop babbling and say, thanks for coming on, Steve. And best I go and check on my roast beef.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on, Simon. Obviously, apart from the slight hiccup with the internet, it's been a great chat, and I've been happy to be on.
Oh, lovely. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No worries.
Goodbye.
Cheers. Bye.
One Saturday about 35 years ago, I was swimming in the giant Olympic competition pool at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, where I was living. And it was the regular Saturday afternoon community swim. And all of a sudden, music was everywhere. It turns out they have an audio system in this massive pool. I'd been in the pool many, many times, but they had never turned on the music before. It was Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and it was a great experience listening to their entire album while I was swimming laps. Fast forward now, I swim at an equally gigantic community pool outdoors in Tucson, Arizona, because the Northwestern pool was indoors because the weather is so rotten there. But it's gorgeous weather here in Arizona, so I swim outdoors at a nearby neighborhood community pool, and they have really crummy, tinny speakers blaring from the side of the pool. You could never have any idea what the music is. Well, H2O Audio website, H2O, the letter O, H2OAUDIO, H2Oaudio.com for $100 has something called the Interval, INTERVAL, Interval Swim Headphones for Apple Watch. It's extremely clever. It's a very lightweight, about a 2-inch by 2-inch spring-loaded frame where you put your Apple Watch in without the band, and then you connect the watch to the Interval, which is this black frame, very strange shape, like something from a Star Wars movie. You'll see it on the website on our links here at Essential Apple. Then you connect it using Bluetooth. There are some buttons into the base of the Interval that are not real easy to press, but you get used to that. And then sticking out from either side of the Interval, about 10 inches long, are earbuds with blue rounded tips. And the company, H2O Audio, has 5 different sets of earbud type tips, as well as 3 different types of Christmas tree industrial earplug or swimmer's earplug type tips. So I guarantee you will find a tip that will seal the water so you can swim without getting water in your ear, because that's important, and be able to listen to your music. This is a brand new product. It's compatible with Apple Music, Pandora, any other apps. Uses Bluetooth 5, 6-hour battery life of playback at 100% volume, compatible with Apple Watches 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the most important thing, it's rated IPX8, continuous underwater use. Then you can use it with other apps for tracking your swimming and stuff like that. Plus, they're coming out with a new app that will be released soon, and we can certainly announce that here at Essential Apple. But for $100, you get world-class audio because the sound is very, very good. Excellent Bluetooth capability, and it's immediately compatible with your watch. What could be wrong with this? Designed for swimming, there's a little YouTube video, shows how it works. Their beta app is called My Swim Tracker, so we'll have more information on that, as I said. Then they also provided us a really nice set of goggles from their own company. H2O audio and a very, very visible H2O audio silicone swim cap. When you go to the top of their website and you tap on products, you will see they have H2O audio and H2O time. So you can see the other products that the company has because they've been around since 2003. So over 15 years of audio gear for aquatic purposes. I'll be swimming this afternoon and I will be able to give you a track-by-track analysis while I am underwater. So let's check out H2O audio interval and consider this if you do any stuff that involves being in, on, or under the water. Back next week.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Bouchotte and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I've forgotten. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
Yeah, I think just a straight ad, don't you?
Yeah.
Like what? What would we say? Like Tech Fan Podcast or?
Are you interested in technology and gadgets?
Uh-huh.
Do you want to listen to two guys who know technology and gadgets?
Are we claiming to be those guys?
Yes. Well, there we go. Are we claiming to be those guys? You be the judge. Tech Fan Podcast.
No, that'll work. Let's use that as an ad.
Okay.
Has been the Essential Apple Podcast. Goodbye and thank you for listening.
Hello.
Hi.
I was just
What a
finished
drama.
talking. I know. Well, I finished talking about the quantum computers.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hello. Oh. And then the boy come running in. Dad, the internet's gone off. And I thought,
Trust the kids to be the early warning system for the internet.
internet's off. And it's like, right, restart the routers, restart the bloody mesh, do this, do that. Nothing. Been doing it, but I did it for about every half hour for about, well, it was about 3 hours, wasn't it?